Pennsylvania, and we all know her. She's the best-selling author of 18 novels. Adriana, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. You know I'm a daughter of the Sons of Italy.
Yes, you are, and we thank you for that. So the questions are already coming in, and the common theme among all of them is very simply, what are you working on?
I'm working on a really big new novel that we feel will, I think we're pretty certain it will relaunch my career. Now, by that I mean, when you have 18 books and you know what's coming, I wanted to write something as I go on that, you know, if I'm hit by a bus, I go, okay, that was good, you know. And so I wanted to get to the heart of what it means to be Italian. So it's 2 books. They're different thematically, but I directed a film in Scotland, and in Scotland we have what we call Britallians, who are Scots of Italian descent, just like we're Italian American. And all over the world I became interested in, well, like, who's Italian, you know? So I found a story that I've never heard told in the way that I'm telling it, and it begins in modern day Italy, like right now, with a grandmother who has a rough relationship with her granddaughter, and over the course of the novel, she's going to find out about her great-grandmother, and her mother's going to tell her mother's story, which impacted her. So it's big, it's France, it's Scotland, it's India, it's Italy, and it's the dream of America.
I love that.
You're going to go crazy because it's so late for you.
I can't wait to read it. We're all big fans. How are you doing? A lot of writing right now in quarantine?
Yes. Yes. You know, my husband said, you know, nothing changes for you. You're just sitting in there tearing your hair out. Nice image. But but quarantine has got me thinking about my people a lot. And I'm spending time in my grandmother's house where we have saved every scrap of paper and every ledger and her books and her sewing supplies. And I have found such a treasure trove that feeds the book I'm working on. And, you know, people would come visit, like in the old days. She has a booklet about England from 1928 that clearly somebody went over there and they brought it back for my grandmother as a gift. And so my research, I have, you know, researchers that I work with, but the stuff to hold these things is really incredible.
Before I ask my next question, is the connection on Adriana okay on your end, Miles?
I think it is. They just put a thing. I just reinforced it. Yeah, it said it was unstable, but I'm here, right?
Yeah, you're here now. Okay. No, because
okay. I don't really like to have the word unstable under my face, but okay.
We're in such an unstable time. Anyway.
We are.
It's so interesting because I've talked to other authors. I actually wrote a book and wanted to start my second book, you know, during this quarantine time, but I'm finding it hard to focus. So what is your tip on just focusing in and zoning in on what your characters are doing?
Well, Lisa Marie, I would say what drives me is that, and keeps me focused, is that I'm in a routine with it. Now, the first thing I ask like big star authors is, how do you do it? Because I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
So what you do, Lisa Marie, is you just say, for this particular time period, don't open that door.
Yeah.
I'm in here doing it. Because writing it's really learning to talk to yourself and get the work out. I have a whole technique to it, which would be too long for this, but let's do something with the Sons of Italy when the pandemic is over, and I'll do a workshop.
I love that.
And I'll take you through how you set up your life to do this. Because my husband points out the person it has least affected is me, because I work every day at this in this fashion. So when a book is due and I have a deadline, by the way, I really believe in deadlines. I think it's really hard to just work thinking I'll get it done when I get it done. No, set deadlines. And then once you have set the deadlines, then you can almost prorate your time. And then I have techniques to unlock the power of your sleep. Because the reason I can produce what I produce, and that includes screenplays, I mean, we don't even talk about those, but I do it while I sleep. So I wake up with the answers. And I'll teach you how to do it.
I love that. No, we definitely.
But right now, I would say, we're going to have a conversation, and I can walk you through it, and you'll say, ooh, I'll take that little piece, that'll work, or I'll take that little piece. You know, when I talk to, say, Ellen Hildebrand, and she gives me a tip. And then I talk to a new author, and she gives me a tip, and then he gives me a tip, and people give you tips. And then pretty soon, the meatball that is Lisa Marie will present itself.
That's great advice. I'm sure Miles, I know you've had a great relationship with Adriana, and he's also the editor-in-chief of Italian American Magazine. I am sure you have many questions for Adriana.
I do. Actually, first off, I want to say thank you to Adriana for being so supportive of the magazine. You take the back page every magazine.
Every time.
And before we bring it back home to Virginia,
yes,
I wanted to know, heaven forbid that anybody who reads Italian American Magazine, any of our members, have not read an Adriana Trigiani novel. And I was wondering, which one would you give them to read first?
Well, you know, I'm a linear thinker, so I would begin with the first one, Big Stone Gap, because what's
Your
great
answer
about
was
that,
going to be that. I knew it.
Big Stone Gap, then you have Big Cherry Holler, then you have Milk Glass Moon and Home to Big Stone Gap. So if you like the first one, you have 3 more books to read. But then I'm in love with all of them, to be truthful, because, you know, it takes a lot of time to write them. And I fall in love with the world of Queen of the Big Time takes place right here in Pennsylvania. So you have the coal camps of Virginia, and then you have Pennsylvania, and then you have with Tony's wife, you really have the Jersey Shore and the world. With Kiss Carlo, it's Philadelphia down to the cobblestones. My Italian cousins from there. If you like the golden age of Hollywood and you wonder, how did the Italians get to Hollywood? You should read All the Stars in the Heavens, which, you know, they positioned it as Loretta Young and Clark Gable, but I think it's really the story of Alda, her assistant, fictional, which I had heard. So you could go through each one, and if you want to really know my grandmothers and my mom who had such an effect on me, you would Don't Sing at the Table, and you would get the family cookbook with my sister Mary Yolanda Trigiani, Luciana Trigiani, Francesca Trigiani, Antonia Trigiani, and my mom alive.
Adriana, are you there? Or did we lose her now?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. You're just on my end, you're frozen.
There we go. We got you back.
Really? I think I should be back now, right?
Yeah, you are.
Okay,
the
good.
beauty of technology. You know what the problem is? Everybody and their mother is on Zoom right now in the United States. So
I know, and God bless them. It's good.
yeah, exactly. Thank God we have this type of technology to get us through these days, right?
Absolutely.
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 So Justin, any questions on Facebook?
Yeah, Lisa Marie. So we have a question from Tony Bronco, and this has actually come through from a few other people as well, but he was wondering who has influenced Adriana's writing the most? Is there a specific author or a style that has influenced you the most?
The person that really influenced me the most was my mother, who was a librarian, who taught me to revere books. And I am a voracious reader. It's the thing, you know, when people say, what's your hobby? I wish I had one. I read. I'm interested in it. And I was interested in holding a pen. I was interested when my father came home from work and opened a newspaper. And I can remember not being able to read, and I'm like, I want to be able to do what he's doing. So reading has always been, you know, my thing that I love so much. And I'm from a big family, and I'm one of 7 kids. And so I like my privacy, and even though I would say outgoing, it was so wonderful to just disappear with a bunch of books on a weekend and come out on Monday having read them all when I was a kid. I loved that. I loved illustrations. I loved typeset. And my mother, when she read to us, always said, like, Pippi Longstocking, written by Astrid Lindgren. She said the name. And so that person, Judy Blume, whoever it would be, took on mythical proportions to me, particularly Beverly Cleary, who is still alive. I think she's 104 now. So those kinds of modeling from my mom, and our home was full of books. Now that's rare in an Italian-American home, as you all know. Books and purchasing them were last on the list of working class immigrants. It just was. They didn't think to buy books. But through the years, it has begun to change. I mean, if you go back to Pietro Di Donato or Helen Berolini and these greats, and then when you started reading magazines as a kid, you saw Barbara Grizzuti Harrison. So you started to see Italians everywhere. That's how we do it as immigrants. We keep our heads down, we work hard, and we embed. So that's what really influenced me as a writer, is that, and the characters in my family. I mean, because I can't make this stuff up. You and I could be talking for the next 12 hours with funny family stories. And I have friends that go, I can't believe you talk, but that's what's interesting to me, the feuds and the not speaking and the, I love all that. I think it's like starring in the movie of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm in love with right now, and I'm sure you've read the novels or watching the TV show.
My beautiful friend.
Brilliant friend. Yeah. Are you guys watching that? Miles, Justin? Miles. What a beautifully done show. Right?
I think they're great. And I think the dramatization is among the best scripts, book to script. I love the direction. And I think they're doing a magnificent job. And for most Italian Americans who are of Southern descent, that's hitting the chimes right there with Naples. It's just hitting the chimes.
Absolutely. What part of Italy are you from?
I am from Northern Italy, from the Italian Alps in the Lombardy region. I'm from the Veneto, one quarter, because both my grandparents on my mother's side were immigrants, but they met in Hoboken, but they were from towns 5 miles apart, which is so romantic to me. And my dad's dad, Michael Anthony Trigiani, was born in America, but his family was from Rosetto Valfatore on the mountain between Rome and Naples. So Naples was the place you went when you were gonna sail away somewhere. So I'm half north and some south.
Very cool. Miles, what do you have?
Well, that kind of segues into where you were born and raised.
Okay.
Big Stone Gap. A lot of people would recognize that little town because you put it on the map with your first novel. It's situated.
Well, they say that, but I just really celebrated with love what I was raised with, and I love the Appalachian people. Right.
So it's situated, for people watching. It's situated. Is it fair to say that Virginia might be a shoe?
Yes.
Shape of the shoe? It would be kind of in the toe of the shoe.
It's in the toe
close
of the
to the
shoe.
border of Kentucky.
It's in the toe of the shoe, which reminds me of one of the favorite things I ever wrote in one of the Valentine books, which was when the girls are like, when a man has done one of the Italian girls wrong, her mother says, Italy's shaped like a boot. That means kick his ass. It's not shaped like a mattress. Lay down and take it.
Oh.
Pretty good, right?
That's a saying to hold on to.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I'm sorry to say the word ass on Facebook, but we were saying.
So my question was, can you talk about
from two shoe-shaped entities?
Talk about the Italian.
And a boot.
Yeah. Well, talk about the Italian population down in Big Stone Gap. and how growing up Italian in that area influenced you?
Well, in two big ways. Okay, there were some Italians like the Caruso family in Norton, but we hung with the Lebanese, the Isaac family. We hung with people from our Catholic church on the weekends. And then at school, you know, we were, my brothers and sisters, we were kind of the island of misfit toys, because we had to be home every night at 6 for dinner. And my father didn't care if you were the quarterback on the high school football. He did not care. You had to be there. And people knew that even at school. Like if there was a committee meeting, you know, we'd had to get home. So there was that. And I thought, because where I was raised, that the Catholic Church was really tiny and we were like an outlier religion, till I went to St. Mary's at Notre Dame. And, you know, when I went to college, I thought, oh, it's a big organization. And I know that sounds like I'm an idiot, but what can I tell you? Anyway, so you had the Italians that were in Virginia. There was an area in Big Stone Gap called Italy Bottom by the river. And that was where the miners who came over from Italy, made money and went home, lived. However, everybody didn't go home. But in order to survive as Italians in a non-Italian environment, those that would intermarry, say with local Appalachian women or men, right? They changed their names. So you would find it like my friend Russell Fig. It's a longer Italian name, but they just said Fig. And my dad actually started finding people and said, that kid's grandfather's Italian and he has an Italian accent. He lives in a coal camp, because my dad would visit him. So I learned about, you know, assimilation. And then I had the great thrill of meeting Franco Harris in Florida with his beautiful wife. And we say Franco, it could be Franco Harris. And when I was a little girl, that football game with what they called the Hail Mary, you know, which my mother always hated that they applied that to sports, but whatever. She's in heaven now and she could take that up with God. But I got to tell the story. It was an Italian-American organization, Il Circo, in this beautiful Palm Beach thing. And they were honoring Franco and me and an opera singer. And so I got to get up after Franco and tell this story. So my dad was watching the game and he said, hey, come here, look at this. And this was in the 70s. So I was a little kid. And he says, watch this. And he said, you see his name? And it said Franco Harris. And I was watching the TV and he like took his helmet off or whatever. And my dad said, he's Italian. And he was black. And I said, well, he must be Southern Italian. That was my first thing. And then I said, and my dad said, his dad was a soldier in World War II and was stationed in Italy. And that's where he met his Italian wife. And then my father said the words I think that have shaped me. He said, isn't that fantastic? Isn't that fantastic? And so that stayed with me my whole life. So when I meet people who are not from a cookie cutter mold and have Italian roots, I go, isn't that fantastic? Because when I was growing up, you know, to be other as an Italian is to have a totally different experience when you move to New York, because then everybody looked like me all of a sudden. Suddenly I was in a world where people had names with vowels on the end, or they were named things like Annunziata and Lucia and Francesca. So it wasn't exotic anymore. But there's also a danger in that. It's a little bit, you know, I got to meet Geraldine Ferraro before she died. And I said to her, I said, did the Italian-American community vote for you when you were running for vice president? And she said, I don't think my own family voted for me. That's the Italian-American experience. Don't tell me who I am, I'll tell you. I really went on a long time with that question. but
No,
mine is so good.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else from our audience, Justin?
Yeah, we absolutely do. So we have a question that's coming from Ohio, from the Sons of Italy in Cincinnati. They said, why did Adriana write "Don't Sing at the Table" on the cover of her Life Lessons with Grandma's Cook?
Now, why did I write what?
Don't sing at the table.
Oh, okay. Because my great-grandfather, Davide Perrine from the Veneto, AKA David Perrin in the United States, had an expression that said, he who sings at the table is stupider than the one who smokes in bed. And Jonathan Burnham, who was my editor, said that really made him laugh. So we don't sing at the table. That's where it came from.
I love that. Justin, anything else?
Yeah, so we have a question from Mark D'Annunzio, and he was wondering, do you make it to Italy often? Obviously, this time period, excluding the current situation. And where do you go when you do make it to Italy?
Okay. Mark, that's a great question. And I have a beautiful, I made a friend in Italy when I was traveling with Mary Testa and Paula Cuccolo in the late 80s. Her name is Gina Casella, and she runs AT Escapes, which is, I have a tour company. And there's also a part of it called Coutures where Gina will send you all over. And I say that as a preamble, that the one thing about this pandemic that's been really hard is I can't get on a plane and go to the mountain. I love to go to Scilpario, Italy, and I have like dreams and plans for that town. So I go north very often to the lake region and the Lombardy and the mountains, right? Beautiful Bergamo. But I also love the whole southern coast, and I love Capri. I love the Isle of Capri. And there isn't anything I don't love there. I love Santa Margherita to the north and all the way down to Sorrento. I love Rimini on the other side. I love the Adriatic. I mean, this is crazy. I can't even give it to you. Like Rome has a special thing. And then I love like Bologna and all those cities all the way that loop up. And of a particular love is Florence and Assisi and Deruta, where they make the pot. I mean, really, I sound like I can't pick, and I can't.
It's okay. Italy is such a beautiful country. I wish I was quarantined there, right, guys?
I kind of do
Right.
too. It makes me feel suffocated that we can't get on planes and go there.
Yeah.
So thank you for that great question, Mark D'Annunzio.
Justin, anything else?
That's it for the moment.
Okay.
Good.
Mike, anything else?
I do. I have one last question for you. So you do a lot of Facebook live streaming, and you have a lot of guests, a lot of writers, a lot of excellent writers all over the world. I say all over the world because I tuned into the one that you had with Colin McCann. He's a great Irish writer.
Great Irish
And
American.
a part of the interview that really resonated with me and I just loved was when you guys started talking about teachers and the importance of teachers. And of course, we have coaches, we have our parents. I was wondering, tell us about one school teacher that really influenced you.
Wow. Well, I could name them all, and I love them all. But if you will indulge me too. For 1 year, I had a uniform in Catholic school here, and my teacher's name was Sister Teresa Kelly, who ended up, she was very young when she taught me, and I idolized her. And I had to draw a picture of creation, and she came by my desk and she said, she just put her hand on me and she said, someday you'll be a great artist. That was one. And then, oh, it's so hard, but let me choose Mrs. Grace White, my third grade teacher in Big Stone Gap, who was elegant. She had white hair. She dressed to the nines. She had a great figure, beautiful shoes. And she pushed reading. on all these kids from the mountains. She pushed it, and she knew, I think instinctively, you got a hard road ahead of you, honey. I think she knew I had a funny name, and I was exuberant. And she took time with me. But I have to tell you, that's true of all my teachers, all the way up. I had great teachers. And then when I got to St. Mary's, some of the great professors. So I think teachers are unsung. And, you know, now we're learning that nurses and doctors and technicians are unsung in the healthcare industry. But I mean, before I die, I push this agenda everywhere I go, Miles. You know this, that I can't believe in this country of great wealth we underpay our teachers and that we don't honor them. And you're putting the soul of your kid in their hands, you know?
Well, I think all the mothers and fathers that are doing homeschool right now,
They get it.
They get it now. If they didn't get it before, they certainly
No.
get it now, because everybody all over the country, they're going out of their minds, right?
They are. They're going crazy.
Yeah. All right.
That's
So,
a great question, Miles. Thank you, my love.
yeah, no, absolutely. So Miles, before we wrap up, I know you have some information you'd like to.
I do. Let me share my screen. And Adriana, I want to thank you so much for coming out and being a guest. Our next interview is next Wednesday at 1:30, May 20th, with Ambassador Armando Verricchio, the ambassador from Italy. Yes, yes. So that'll be a pretty special interview. And for those of you interested in joining OSDIA, please visit www.osia.org and look for a lodge near you, or consider joining as an at-large member. And also, please like and follow us on Facebook. We're going to have a lot of these interviews coming up, some great guests. Adriana obviously tips the scales with having such a wonderful guest, but we're going to have a lot of great ones in the future as well. So please tune in.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to say hi to Jim LaMarca, because his daughter, Joanne, who's one of the great producers at the Today Show, he always got a kick out of seeing, when he gets his Sons of Italy magazine, he loves to flip it and see the back ad, which always just made me so happy. You have such reach, and you have such, I mean, the Sons of Italy and daughters, it's such a great organization, and I'm so proud to be a part of it.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon.
You're all stars.
You too.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.